Hello and welcome to Twin Sleep Talk. I'm Laura Van Leuven, a twin sleep consultant, registered nurse, and most importantly, mom of 5, including fraternal twin boys. Today, I'm going to be sharing my story of how I found out I was pregnant with twins and what I wish I would have done differently. So if you are just finding out you're pregnant with twins, or maybe you have newborn twins, make sure you stick around and hear my story. Today, I'm sharing my journey because sometimes the most powerful thing we can hear as twin moms is "me too." So picture this. You are in East Africa, thousands of miles from home, laying on an ultrasound table, and tears are streaming down your face, wondering if the baby you're carrying is okay. You're convinced you're about to hear the worst news possible, only to discover that your life is about to change in ways you never imagined. When I found out that I was going to be expecting my second baby in 2015, I was terrified. I was living in the tiny, hot East African country of Djibouti. Yes, that's a real place. Look it up on a map. I was living there with my husband and my 1-year-old. I had just suffered a fairly traumatic miscarriage in which I had emergency surgery from doctors that I could hardly communicate with. To find out I was having another baby felt like the world was crashing in on me. But I knew I wanted 2 children, so I hoped for the best. A few days after the positive pregnancy test, I started to wonder what kind of alien baby I was growing. My belly was already starting to show and I could not eat enough. Now, what's funny is looking back, I feel like my body was trying to tell me something. The early belly growth, I kind of chalked it up to, well, it's my second one. My first one is only a year old, but it was a little more marked than maybe even a second baby would be. The intense hunger was something that really threw me off because during my first pregnancy, I had hyperemesis gravida and I also had a lot of nausea with my miscarriage. So the hunger was something that I had never really experienced before. So I'm just wondering, for any twin mom listening, if you're pregnant with your twins or you've recently had your twins, maybe you can let me know in the comments, what were some of the first signs that you noticed that maybe tipped you off that something was a little bit different this time? I'd love to know. So living in Djibouti, the summertime is unbearably hot, and the company we were working for required us to leave and go to the temperate city of Nairobi, Kenya. So we arrived in Nairobi for our summer break. I immediately went to the OB and I got an ultrasound because I was just terrified that something was wrong with this baby. So I was lying on the table in the ultrasound room and the whole room fell silent and I could just feel the tension in the room. I saw my husband looking kind of sideways at the screen and it just made me feel like something was wrong again this time. If you've ever had a loss, some of these moments can be a little bit triggering, or they just make you think of the last time you were there and they couldn't find the heartbeat, or they realized something was very wrong. So I started to tear up, my voice cracked, and I said, "Is the baby okay?" And again, the whole room was kind of silent, the tech, and then there was another woman in the room with him. I don't know if she was a student or something, but she was also very tense and just kind of staring at me. But then all of a sudden, this big smile flashed across the tech's face and he just yelled out, "It's a double blessing." And I was so confused because I thought he meant like, it's, my second baby. So it's the second blessing. Everything's okay. So it's kind of like, what? And he said, "It's twins." My husband and I, we walked out of there and you could not wipe the smile off of our faces had you tried. So that moment in the ultrasound room, even if you kind of had a suspicion that you were going to have twins, I still feel like it's a universal experience for twin moms. It's that shock and the disbelief and that immediate mental recalculation of what you thought your pregnancy and parenting was going to be. So whether you're hearing this in your car or you're washing dishes or maybe you're folding laundry or maybe you're rocking your babies to sleep, I bet you remember that moment too. So a couple weeks later, the nausea and fatigue set in like no other. Now, thankfully, there were a couple other American women in the small country where I was living, and they were also twin moms, and they offered me a ton of encouragement. One of those pieces of advice and encouragement was to return to the United States to give birth to the babies. You see, in Kenya at the time, there was no NICU to speak of. And this was confirmed by my OBGYN. I trusted her because even though she was from Europe, she had given birth in Kenya. And even she said at this point, it's best to go back to the United States. Now, I think in like the year I'm recording this in 2025, I think things are different there now. I think they've definitely expanded their NICU program and things are a lot safer to deliver babies early. But just because of the risks, and since I had the option, I decided to come back here home to Minneapolis and have my babies. Now, thankfully, everything went fine. I was 36 weeks and they were both pretty big, healthy boys. They were fraternal. They were each about 6.5 pounds. And they were born C-section. And even though it was a much more difficult recovery than I had with my daughter, who was born naturally, things went really well on paper. Now, since I'd already had a baby, I was already kind of thinking, look, I know what I'm doing here. I survived the newborn stage. It doesn't actually last that long. I know about sleeplessness and I know about breastfeeding troubles. It's fine. I've totally got this. How hard can it be? It's twins, but it's like a little extra. It's like one plus a little extra. And I was so wrong. People had kept telling me to prepare myself. You just wait. Now, some of these comments actually just felt like they were trying to scare me or make me do something different than I was already doing, but nobody could ever say like what different thing I should be doing. Within just a few hours, it all kind of hit me that this was a different scenario. Trying to breastfeed two babies at the same time was a chore. I had even had trouble with one baby, let alone trying two babies on at the same time. I just wasn't having it. Pretty soon they were dropping a lot of weight. We were having to do the triple feed. And by the time they were like 2 days old and getting ready to discharge from the hospital, they had already lost over 10% of their body weight. And so we were considering doing formula. So feeding was all kind of a mess. And also just obviously the sleeping was really challenging. I remember as I was getting discharged, I truly tried to convince the nurse that she needed to come home with me and help me take care of these two little humans because I was feeling completely overwhelmed. That first night was kind of a blur. I don't think we slept at all. We brought them home. Our daughter, who was 2 years old at the time, she started waking up throughout the night. There were times when all five of us were like in our little queen bed. I would be trying to feed both babies. She was in there kicking me. And I think my husband was just laying there trying to survive. Let's just say things were not good at all. I found myself curled up on the bed one morning, just sobbing uncontrollably. My C-section still hurt. I was totally failing at breastfeeding, and I didn't really want to return to Djibouti. I felt like because of all the time I was spending with my twins, my daughter was feeling abandoned by me. But most of all, I was just really tired. Now, let me just pause here and say something that I wish someone had told me. If you're in those early days right now, what you're feeling, it's normal. The overwhelm, the tears, the wondering if you can do this, it's all normal. And you're not failing. You're learning to parent two babies at once. Now, my husband found me this way, and we just knew that something had to change. Some of these things could be fixed, but we knew that nothing would actually be getting better until we were all sleeping. So we scraped together what little savings we had and a tax return, and we decided to hire a night nanny for as much as we could afford. Now, she was a godsend. I would stand at the window in the evening and I would wait for her. My heart would like skip a beat when I saw her headlights roll up on the street. She taught me so much about baby sleep. And she also suggested that on the nights that she wasn't there, that my husband Aaron and I start taking shifts. So he and I decided to split the night between 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. So I would go and sleep from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. and he would be like on in the nursery with, well, I guess the twins were in our room. And so then he would just deal with any wake ups between the twins and my daughter. And then at 3 a.m., he would come into the guest room and go to sleep. And I would go into our room, which was also the nursery, and deal with any wake ups, feedings, or anything. And then he would sleep until 9. His work was a little flexible at the time. And then at 9, he would get up and he would go off to work. So you would think, things did start to turn a corner. Things did start to get better. I started to get a little more sleep and started feeling a little bit better about myself. So, what could I tell myself if I could go back 10 years? Well, here are three things that I feel like I learned the hard way. Number one, get help before you think you need it. So, all those people that are telling you you don't know what's about to hit you, or things are going to be so hard, or you're going to have your hands full, all these things that just kind of get under your skin and annoy you. What you could try to do instead, if you feel comfortable with those particular people, is say, yeah, I am going to have my hands full. Do you think you could make me a meal that I could put in my freezer before the babies are born? Or, yeah, I am going to have my hands full. What day could you come over and clean my house for me, or do my laundry, or take my older kid out on a walk? Things like that. And it's a great idea to actually write some of these things down so that in the moment you can remember who were the people that maybe were in their own way offering to help, and what are some ways that you would feel comfortable asking them for help. Maybe they could just send you a DoorDash coupon and you could order food one night. Number two is focus on your sleep foundations first. So those first few weeks are just kind of a whirlwind. So having some kind of plan so that you can actually get a night or two of sleep during the first few weeks, just so that you can keep going. Maybe that means, like I did, splitting the night with your partner, or having your partner stay up one night so that you can sleep, even if it's just 5 or 6 hours. And then or if you have the financial means, to hire someone to come in, even just one night a week, just to give you a break. Maybe you have extended family that you feel comfortable asking for help. Please do so. When you're a twin parent, one of the best skills you can learn is knowing how and when and who to ask for help. And not only that, accepting help. The third thing I would tell myself 10 years ago is that I needed to give myself permission to struggle. You see, I felt like I already knew everything. I had been a mom. I knew how to deal with sleeplessness and all these difficulties with breastfeeding and trying to figure out sleep cues and hunger cues and how to take care of myself and another human. But when I had twins, it was another learning curve for me. And I didn't feel like I should be struggling with this. I felt like I should already have a handle on it. But the truth is, it's okay. Even if you are a seasoned mom, even if these are your fifth and sixth kids, it's still going to be a learning curve to learn who these babies are, what these babies need, and how to care for two at the same time. And also maintaining your own sanity. So allow yourself to struggle, allow yourself to make mistakes, so to speak. Maybe you don't catch every sleepy cue. Maybe sometimes the latch just isn't right and you end up giving a bottle. These things are okay. I want you to give yourself grace. You are doing an amazing job at being a mom. I know that because you're already here on this page and you're wondering about other people's experiences, because I know you are trying to be the best parent you can be. So today, my twins are 9, they're almost 10 years old. And I think about those early days and they feel like a lifetime ago. But I remember them clearly enough to know exactly what you might be going through right now. I remember those sleepless nights. I remember that constant groggy feeling, that feeling like at any moment you could just snap and you would fall apart. And that's why I'm here. That's why this podcast exists. If you're in those early days, if sleep feels impossible right now, I want you to know that hope and help is available. You can find me over at twinsleep.com or on Instagram at twinsleep.help. And there you'll find access to all of my resources. And if you're watching this video, I'm guessing that you either have newborn twins or you're close to having newborn twins. So I'm going to link below my free twin newborn sleep guide. This is just for you to start thinking about ways that you can help yourself get a little sleep in those early days when you're still healing from your C-section, when you are just getting to know these two little humans that you've brought into the world. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm really glad to welcome you to the Twin Mom Club.